Hannah, what is the deal?
Hi, how are you?
I am so great. Please tell me all of the things. What are you working on? I'm all
What am I
ears.
not working on?
Right. You're probably so busy right now.
I'm pretty busy. Things are, oh my gosh, it's almost like I wanted a break over the summer, and the gods were like, that's not in store for you right now.
JK, JK, no break for you.
Yeah, but hopefully things will slow down. Oh my gosh, we're working on so many exciting things. So, like, our database is launching at the end of this month. So, we have this really cool salary database. It's going to be a beautiful tech product and not an ugly Google spreadsheet.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, more interviews. We're really scaling up cool new people we're interviewing in tech and healthcare and trades and just doing all the things, doing what we can.
So tell me how important it is just to be transparent when it comes to salary and things of the like.
It's so important. It's one of those things that up front presents so much value, but is one of the hardest hurdles to get over in a conversation, in a career. Really, just talking about your salary allows the opportunity for other people to learn, what your market rate is. And in turn, you might learn that your market rate or how much you're making is below what you should be making compared to your peers. It just opens this door to a valuable conversation where both sides of each party are able to glean something, whether it's, career advice, market research, learning about the possibilities in your career. It's a truly valuable conversation.
That's interesting because I feel like back in the day, or employers, there's been a situation where people have
Mhm.
said, don't talk about your salary, don't share
It
your
still
salary
happens.
with other people. Why do you feel? I know why it's the case, but I feel like you have a little bit more credibility as to share. Why do you feel like that is the case? Tell me.
Oh my gosh, it's only because it's in the employer's best interest. Truly, secrecy is a means of control. It's a way that employers can get away with underpaying other groups. And for the most part, those groups happen to be women, workers with disabilities, the LGBTQ community, Black people, minorities. It's basically if you do not have a strong compensation structure that is transparent internally, you're allowing so much room for bias and inequity to occur and kind of stay hidden behind the scenes. But when you have these conversations, and if you hear from your employer, don't be talking about, your salary at work, you're not allowed to. There's a reason why they're telling you that. And it's probably because there's some inequity happening within your organization and they would like to keep getting away with that.
So, Hannah, is it legally they can't necessarily do anything to you when they're like, don't talk about your salary, right?
Yeah, so that's one thing that really makes me physically ill is that there's so many laws that protect workers from this inequity.
Mhm.
There are laws in many different states that you are allowed to talk about your salary. The National Pay Relations Act allows so many workers the right to talk about their salary in the office. So when companies say you're not allowed to do that, it's actually illegal for them to say that. It's illegal for them to make you sign an NDA that you won't have these conversations. It's illegal for them to persecute you in any way. You are allowed to have these conversations. You should, and it's in your best interest.
Yes, and I think it makes everything an even playing field, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Once you're removing those barriers and that secrecy, everything's out in the open. You can't hide any more secrets. You can't hide how you got, this bonus that you can't explain. Everything's out in the open, and truly everyone wins.
Do you feel like that is a millennial Gen Z thing where people are discussing their salaries and just open and upfront about it as opposed to other generations?
I get that question a lot. I'm not sure that it's like a generational thing that, we're just more open to have these conversations and more transparent. I really think that it's a result of our circumstances and how we've grown up. The majority of us are still making the same entry level salaries as our parents. We're not making as much comparatively in terms of our growth of salaries. And so, if you have people that are part of a secretive system and salaries aren't changing, but houses are, all the prices are increasing there, groceries are increasing, and our salary pay is stagnating, you're going to have some people that are going to be upset about not making enough and not being able to make ends meet. And once there's a little bit of ruffle there and you realize, oh, on top of that, people are not making the same equal salaries in an organization that they should be, people are going to talk. And now we have these really cool social media tools that allow us to connect with people across the country in a split second, and share this information across borders. And so I think that it's our tools and just our circumstances allowing us to now have these conversations.
I tell you what, it's just so beneficial. I don't know if you've seen some of these stories, but you hear how, some talk show hosts, that were like, hey, I was making this amount of money when I joined the show. You should ask for this amount of money so you don't get lowballed. I just think that
Sherry
it's
did that on the talk, right?
no, Sherry did that on The View to Sunny Hostin. Right, exactly. And I just think it's so important just to look out for your fellow person, just to make sure that they're not going in there and getting, I don't want to say ripped off, but essentially.
I mean, essentially, like if you're not making as much as you should be making compared to your market rate and your peers, you are getting ripped off. And that has, super major effects down the road. Like I started Salary Transparency because I found out I was underpaid and I was making $20,000 to $25,000 less than my market rate. Compounded over years and months, that has a tremendous effect on my ability to build wealth and create, generational wealth as well for my family. When you zoom out and you see one person's instance, but several people's instances grouped together, people are missing out on millions of dollars every single day. And that needs to change.
Hannah, when you found out that you were making $25,000 less than your market rate, describe that feeling for me, because I feel like it probably would be a sense of anxiety that just did not go away.
It's a feeling I don't wish on anyone. And it's a huge reason why I started this, because I want people to make their market rate. I want people to feel fairly paid, because the flip side of that and realizing you're not fairly paid, it makes you anxious. It makes you depressed. It's confusing. It's frustrating. I experienced every emotion in the book. It's kind of like the stages of grief, and I tried to advocate for myself. I tried to ask for a fair market rate. And when my company denied me, my only other option was to look elsewhere. And sure enough, I did find a company that valued me and decided to pay me my fair market rate. And that emotion was this jubilation that I want everyone to experience. It feels amazing to be paid what you're worth. And I wish that more companies understood that when you pay your employees what they're worth and what they deserve, they will pay you back in dividends with their work and their loyalty.
I tell you what, they will work harder than any employee at some company that's like not, you know what I'm saying?
It's definitely a win-win situation. And what we need to do is continue putting pressure on these organizations to become transparent internally and externally, because we need that change.
So how did this idea come to you? Was it when you were working that job?
Yeah. So, I mean, it came after a couple months after I finally accepted my new job where I was making my fair market rate. And it was really just this experience of I couldn't shake what happened to me. And I was really frustrated because once it happened and I started doing more research on pay gaps and what causes these pay gaps, I was frustrated that I had resolved my situation and I had, come out of my hole and found my fair market rate job, but so many other people were still stuck in the hole. And I realized that we needed to work together to influence this change. And thank God I worked through the Great Resignation, and I saw what happens when people really band together and start asking for change together. And that was a huge motivation for me starting Salary Transparency and just sharing this message that pay transparency is valuable, secrecy is not, and we really just need to work together to ensure everyone's fairly paid.
So Hannah, for someone that is listening to this right now or watching the video, what are some tips that they can use for salary negotiation?
Ooh, salary negotiation. My number one tip is to do it. I think a lot of people know that they're supposed to, but it's such an intimidating conversation. And if you don't consider yourself a salary negotiation expert, which most of us aren't, it's a very difficult conversation to have. And so taking that first step and initiating that negotiation is the hardest step of all, but the most important. And so number one, do it. You should always negotiate your salary. My second tip is to come prepared with your market research to any interview. You want to start bringing up salary in that first conversation with a recruiter. So know what you're asking for. Your market rate should be between between from zero minimum to max, a $20,000 difference. Always ask for the top tier of your salary range, because if you work down, you don't want to start from your lower rate. You want to start from your higher rate, so you get the highest salary within your range. And just advocate for yourself. Understand that asking for what you're worth is not something that's going to get your offer rescinded from you. They're not going to take it away. You're not going to frustrate anyone. Asking for what you deserve is the bottom line that should happen, and what you should be receiving anyway.
I think a lot of people think that their offer will be rescinded, but I feel like hiring managers, once they found the person that they feel like can do this job, the last thing that they want to do is go through that process again.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't want to do that. They're not going to remove the offer and take it away, pull it from the table. And another thing is if you're worried that you're asking for too much and they come back and they say, well, we can't, offer you this much, there's other things you can negotiate. You can negotiate paid time off, your health insurance, your 401k match. Shoot, some people even negotiate pet insurance as part of their benefit package. So there's a lot of things on the table.
How did you realize that these videos were like taking off?
I think I got lucky. I posted my first interview April 16th of 2022, so a little over a year ago. It went viral overnight. So it wasn't even a matter of like, oh, this worked and this didn't. Like for the first 6 months of starting our page, all our videos received 1 million views within like a day. So it was more so just kind of like okay, we have the perfect secret formula. Let's just keep going.
Did that freak you out a little bit? I don't know why it would freak me the hell out.
Yes. And one of the things that people don't talk about, I think, is like this problem with burnout that occurs when you go viral, because you don't want it to escape you. But of course, you're never going to go viral constantly. So having those lulls is expected, but you feel like you're doing something wrong, and so it causes a lot of anxiety, but it's a dream. Like I'm living the dream.
Absolutely. Hannah, tell us, what are you working on next?
Yes. So we're releasing our salary database at the end of this month. So our tool has over 5,000 anonymous salaries that we've collected. Hopefully that will grow as the tool goes live. And that's a great tool for market research that's collected from our own community members. So if you need help figuring out what you're worth, you can use that tool to find it out. We also have a salary negotiation guide coming out, free, of course. All of these tools are free. And so if you need help with scripts or advice on how to negotiate your salary, that guide is a one-stop shop to get all the answers you need.
Hannah, I tell you, you are sitting on something that is super special right now. And I feel like it's something that we all need to just do and talk about, is these salaries. You know what I mean? Just to make sure that we are all getting paid what we weren't worth, especially in a time like today.
Especially in this economy and these times. If these conversations make you nervous, don't worry. You're in the same boat as everybody else. They're not easy conversations to have, but I recommend you start with someone you trust, like a family member, a friend, a partner, and then wade into the waters with your colleagues. But start small, start somewhere.
Hannah, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for jumping on and chatting with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a pleasure.